You know what would make that better? A cup of White Cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White Cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.
Good Saturday morning, everyone, and welcome to the cafe as White Cane Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg, Andy Close with you on your daily local. We are live here in the White Cane Coffee Cafe. Got me a fresh cup of Dragon's Roast right here. Come on down, get it one of these special laser engraved tumblers, get it filled with your purchase, get 50% off your refill as part of the White Cane Coffee Mug Club. While you're here, you can pick up a Danish or a cinnamon roll as you were sampling earlier.
One is very good. Just finished it right before we went on here. So come on down.
Fresh made, still got some delicious baked goods around, and come around during lunchtime. Soup and sandwich is now available at the White Cane Coffee Cafe, though no soup today. They're going to be a little busy out participating in the Battle of the Bells, which we'll be at a little bit later on this afternoon. And Andy, it's hard to believe we're rapidly approaching the end of 2023, and it's been a pretty big year here, Morgan.
It has been a pretty big year. I used to make fun of my parents and that generation for saying the older you get, the quicker it goes. Well, I'm a firm believer in that now because 2023 just flew by, and we certainly had no shortage of things going on, and here in Warren County, and things making news throughout the 2023 year, and it was eventful. It was fun. At times, it was it was interesting, but yeah, it's definitely an eventful year.
Yeah, and I mean, and we started off a couple of right out of the gate, really some controversial subjects going on. The school district went through that process of the master facilities plan and what to do with all the different high schools, and obviously they settled on the what they called the hybrid option, where the Sheffield students take their core classes over at Warren, head back to Sheffield for the rest of the day, and definitely a lot of mixed reactions, not just to what the final decision was, but just the process in general. I think we actually penned an editorial right out of the gate, that said the decision to basically say, when we have these public comment sessions, we're going to just let everybody talk and not respond. Maybe not the best way to go about that, because as people said, they felt like they were unheard.
Yeah. And again, I think there was some trial and error involved with those. I feel like, I think the concept, I think the idea, the thought behind it was good, but yeah, to your point, people will get up and speak, and often speak, at length in these public forums, and they wouldn't hear back.
Yeah.
At least not in that setting. And to that point, yeah, like people, that's the thing. I think more than anything, like people want, whether you agree or disagree with them, they want to feel like they're being heard.
Yeah.
And I think maybe no fault of their own. The school district, may or may not have come across that way, and it was certainly a topic that elicited a lot of emotion, a lot of opinion,
as it has for
years,
30 plus years.
Yeah,
now.
and again, it's just the dynamics, this county, and being a school district comprised of an entire county, certainly presents and has presented its challenges over the years. And I think what you saw this year is a lot of people, voicing their opinions and then their frustrations.
Well, and I mean, in fairness, the number of people who spoke at those public comment sessions, you can't possibly respond to everyone individually. And I think that was the point that they were trying to drive home. But there's also a way where you could do that and kind of say, okay, we've had 10 people come up and basically make this general point.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a response to that. And I think even just doing that, as again, this is hindsight looking back, and as we are wont to do in a year in review kind of episode. But even just a generalized response to the major points that were being raised repeatedly throughout that session probably would have gone a long way to again alleviating that we're not feeling heard feeling that people had throughout that process.
Yeah. And I think from the school district's perspective too, you want to, when people address these issues, you kind of want to get together and talk about it and then come out with a response. But I mean, certainly capable of thinking on their feet. But again, I think we touched on that. What I want to touch on too is not any of the specifics of what went on there, but I saw this in a number of different places, and I think this can still get a lot better. But community involvement and engagement, seeing people show up at these meetings and such, I think, at least from my perspective, I saw more of that this year, and I think that's you want an involved community, you want an informed community, and you want a community that's going to not just complain, but actually, take action and be involved. And I think while we can certainly get better collectively, I think we're on the right track as far as that goes, at least from what I saw this year.
Well, I certainly hope so, because and again, I mean, going back to the school district, right, from the end of January basically through the June meeting, there was good attendance. But then once that decision was made, you could see the attendance started to drop off pretty drastically. I mean, to the point that at the last meeting, the organizational meeting on December 4th, we started, and there were a number of people in attendance there, and I was like, oh, this is good. And come to find out, they were all there to support some of those new candidates who were being sworn in that night. And then once the organizational meeting was done, they all left. And so the actual business portion of the meeting continued. And until about the last 15 minutes, I was literally the only person in attendance. And that's the kind of stuff that just can't happen, because it's those meetings leading up to the ones where they start talking about making the big decisions that you need to be in attendance for, so that you can understand the thought process and the rationale and the steps that were taken 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 months ago prior, leading up to, okay, well, now we're at a point where we have to make a big decision because we've done all these other little things leading up to it.
That's a great point too. And listen, like, I get it. Like, some people don't want to go to a meeting and sit through some of the minutia that is some of those meetings. I totally understand that. But to your point as well, that's where a lot of the details are coming out, especially when it came to something as important as this issue. And I think people, not everyone, some people were involved from the get-go, but I think some people showed up, not at the fact, but as these decisions were being made, and be like, oh, hey, wait, now I want to have my voice heard. When if you can get in on the ground floor of a, so to speak, you can be involved right from the get-go and not just kind of jump in last and be like, oh, hey, and kind of throw my arms up and we don't want this. And I get it, I do. Like, and listen, like, I'm not trying to lecture anyone on how to go about that. Certainly, people have very busy lives. Right. You can't be at every school board meeting or anything. But if you're involved in the process from the beginning, I certainly think you're going to be more informed. Especially when you go speak and really speak your mind on something like this.
Yeah, I mean, again, we attend more meetings than most people in the general public do, but that's part of our job. That's what we're doing, right? Reporting on that. But it's, and I don't think anybody expects necessarily everybody, within the community. Certainly the school district doesn't expect everybody in Warren County to attend every single meeting. I mean,
I think they'd want
that could get interesting.
Might have to move venues.
Yeah. But again, there's a difference between, regular attendance and only showing up when you're mad about something.
Yeah.
And I think, generally speaking, and certainly this is not unique to Warren County.
No, not at all.
But I think, generally speaking, we've fallen into the habit of, well, I'm not going to show up until there's something that I'm mad about.
Right.
And that's, again, you've got to be able to have some of that background, in those decisions that were made prior to that time that you showed up because you were mad.
Yeah, it reminded me of it, and not to belabor the point, but years ago, well, it's getting to be a few years ago now when the Youngsville football program went away, and that was, I think, one of my first experiences covering a school board meeting in Warren County, and usually like no one showed up, like you said, and then you get this decision about Youngsville football, and you have an entire community showing up.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's
Right.
it's when it's something you care about. Yeah, you're going to be invested. You're going to want to show up and make your voice heard and kind of speak to what you believe. But yeah, I think all your points are good ones, just in terms of again, if you want to truly want to be informed, show up, be active.
And certainly, by all means, we welcome, on our reporting of these meetings, if you feel like there are questions that were left unanswered about certain topics, by all means, reach out and and ask those questions, and reach out to the board members, council members, townships, whoever it happens to be, whatever body it is, reach out to those members directly. That's part of the responsibility that they take on by running for and accepting those positions, is you've got to be responsive to the public. So, again, by all means, if you have questions about things, reach out to people, find the answers, again, and be informed before you go in and talk, about some decision or whatever that you disagree with.
Sure.
So, and speaking of decisions that people disagree with, certainly an ongoing battle about what to do with that lot and building over there on Pennsylvania Avenue and Liberty Street. Obviously, the current plan is for the Hudson Group to come in, knock down the building there, and construct a 4-story senior housing development. And some people have been pretty outspoken about kind of thinking maybe that's not the right way to go.
Yeah. And again, I want to speak to this too, because I, going to a lot of and covering a lot of council meetings. You have people that have been very active in voicing their displeasure. Certainly, Phil and Denise Cottle, great folks at Bent Run, and Bent Run's amazing, by the way. But no, they've been very active. Your Dave Winans is you have people that have showed up and been in opposition to this for quite some time, and they've made valid points. They've made their voices heard. I know, Phil and Denise even, had a petition, down at Bent Run for people to sign, against the location. And again, to touch on this, not necessarily against the project itself, but against the location, the project itself, really in a prime piece of, downtown real estate. And the points they brought up are good ones. What is this going to add, from a financial standpoint to the downtown? Because that's we've heard so much about that. Is what we got to get folks downtown. We got to get them eating in our restaurants and shopping and this and that. And certainly the senior housing project provides a service for sure. And I'm not against that either. But I think people generally that are opposed to this are opposed to where it's being built and what is it going to bring from a financial aspect, and how is it going to financially benefit downtown Warren. And when they say it's not going to do that, I think that's a very valid point. It's certainly had a lot of people talking and fired up, and for good reason.
Well, and it almost seems like now there's kind of two camps with that, right? That you're talking about the people with the location and what's it going to bring to downtown as far as economic development, but also there's a group of folks out there who are pretty adamantly opposed to destruction of one of the historic buildings downtown to build a new, more modern structure there, and they're fighting to maintain the historic district is one of those things that people worked really hard to bring to the city of Warren. And, they kind of feel like this is just flies in the face of the work that was done to create that. And that's certainly their opinion. And again, part of that is that, they feel maybe the process that was supposed to have been gone through as far as, checking out alternative sites and mitigating destruction to the historic building maybe wasn't followed. And that's kind of the argument they're making. And that's really kind of where we're at with it right now. Is they are going through that. They call it a Section 106 process. And so, it's yet to be seen how all of that is going to play out. But certainly been one of those things that again, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of people again feeling like they have been unheard throughout the process, through various stages of how those things were done. And I know you mentioned Phil and Denise and Piper over at AO, and they they came to a council meeting at one point after the release agreement for staging the construction vehicles, and basically like there was no dialogue between the city and those business owners of, hey, this is what we're looking at as far as we don't really have anywhere else for these places to go. We need to give them that kind of space. And again, we talk so often that communication is key, and the more open you can be with that dialogue, the better off it's going to be for everyone.
Yeah, I know that was some frustration there, especially with some of the business owners and feeling like they weren't communicated with well enough, and that's certainly not to discredit anyone in the city, because I think a lot of folks doing a lot of fine work there as well. But yeah, just making, again, something we've talked about several times already. Just that people want to feel like their voices are being heard, and two, people that own property and own business in this community want to feel like they're part of the process with what's going on in this community, especially when it comes to other projects that either in this case may affect them directly. Even if it doesn't affect them directly, they want to be a part of that process and want to be informed and want to know what's going on. And so from that perspective, I think everyone's working towards that. And I think a project like this is kind of a great example of where we still have room to grow, specifically for Warren as a community.
So we spent some time talking about a couple of different, city council and the school board and things like that. And there have been some changes throughout the year to some of those councils. And Mike Holtz has assumed the position as city manager for the city of Warren. Obviously, we had a pretty wholesale change of the school board with 5 brand new members coming on again just a couple of weeks ago. And Tammy Holden, Stephanie Snell, Savannah Cochran, Dan Sullivan, and John Wortman, who had previously served on city council, moved from city council to school board. I'm going to have a new sheriff in town, literally, come the beginning of the year. Scott Neiswanger going to assume that role after current sheriff Brian Zabel did not run for re-election. And so some changes in our local governments. And again, as we head into 2024, it'll be really interesting to see, maybe how that changes some of the dynamics that we talked about. I think especially with the school board, when you've got almost a wholesale change there, 6 of the 9 members. I mean, that was a body that had seen minimal change for the last decade. And really, when you looked at the votes on a lot of things, almost everything was unanimous. Seldom you'd have an 8-1 or a 7-2. Will that continue? Will those, that cohesion continue? Will we start to see more of those 6-3, 5-4 type votes? Again, won't really find out much until the start of the new year, but something to keep an eye on as we head into 2024.
Certainly, I think so many elected officials in Warren County do such a good job. But I think having fresh blood is a good thing as well. And you talk about council and our county commissioners. We're going to see 2 commissioners as well. And no, I think is cohesion important? Sure. But are different opinions important as well? Absolutely. I think that's what you saw, that the people kind of spoke, especially with the school board election, that we want to see some fresh blood in there, and that's a good thing. And it was funny in talking with John Wortman. He said going from council to the school board, it's like you're trading one community service for another, and I think I think they all bring interesting perspectives. I think John specifically, especially with his experience, working on city council, I'm curious to see. I think he'll be a good fit there.
Well, and being a teacher down in Forest area too, I think brings a unique perspective, because that's another county that's got kind of a unique setup,
Mhm.
you know, as far as their school district and their schools are concerned. So again, keep an eye out and definitely, you know, attend when you can.
Yeah,
We'll have obviously you know, stories reported on those meetings as they happen. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
absolutely.
You can you'll even put the email up there. You can shoot us a note anytime, news@yourdailylocal.com. uh we are happy to hear from people. And you know, again, if you feel like you have questions that aren't being answered in our reporting, we'd love to know about it. And again, we'll make every effort to get those questions answered when we can. And if we don't have the answers, we'll go look for them.
Yeah,
Kind of what we do.
It's a job, you know. If you want to know, we're gonna try and find out for you. So, but again, you know, encourage you to, as Brian said, you know, I'm just repeating what you said really at this point, but no, just be. I think again, involve communities and inform communities. So,
And so, you know, we went from some of those, you know, controversial subjects that people were kind of getting fired up about, and then, you know, we get a decision made from the school board. There was a lull, kind of, in what was going on with the stuff with Eagles Crest and that development. And we thought maybe, hey, it's July. We just had the parade.
nice,
It's
quiet.
gonna be a nice,
Yeah.
quiet time. No, because people had to find bed sheets and scale the roof of the jail, uh, and really, you know, maybe not for the best of reasons, but a lot of people found out where Warren County was over the summer as they were tracking the manhunt for Michael Burrow.
Yeah, of course, anyone doesn't know what we're talking about. I think everyone does know what we're talking about. But yeah, Michael Burham kind of dominated the news cycle here, not just in Warren County, but was, you know, a top national story for the time he was, you know, on the run here after escaping from the Warren County jail. But yeah, one of the funny things was I attended, you know, those daily press conferences, you know, held by the state police, and getting some of the national outlets in here and meeting some really nice people,
Yeah.
but at the same time, hearing them, you know, kind of mispronounce some of the,
Right.
like the locations around there.
Yeah.
It was kind of comical, and you would just kind of correct them a little bit. Hey, it's this, but
Yeah.
but no, listen, the Michael Burham story was kind of. I mean, I hate to say it, was kind of like the story
Yeah. Oh yeah.
of 2023, and you know, I remember being down there. You were as well that first night. You know, when they thought they had them, and it turned out they didn't.
Yeah.
And didn't clear the scene until about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, week-long 8-day, you know, manhunt, and yeah, it was just something that you're not used
Yeah.
to, something you're not expecting to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone kind of had to adapt and adjust, and it just, you know, for the time that he was on the run, I think everyone was just like captivated. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's the kind of story it was.
Well, you know, and you mentioned some of the national outlets that were here and mispronouncing stuff, and it was interesting to see the different approaches that they took to their coverage. I mean, there were a couple places that basically just you know, put up a tent essentially at the Youngsville Borough office where, you know, they were staging. You know, state police and other authorities were staging out of the fire hall there. And some of those places basically just put up a tent and said, we're going to wait here because anything that comes out, they're going to have a press conference or whatever for. And, you know, and then there were others that were, you know, running all over the place. Anytime police were called somewhere, they were following them just because, well, maybe this is it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, maybe this, you know, person calling because the door was ajar. Oh, it wasn't him. And so it was definitely interesting to see the different approaches taken. I mean, certainly we had our own approach to that, and we actually had a coffee and a conversation episode dedicated to that coverage. You can check it out in the archives on our YouTube channel, Your Daily Local.
And
Go
yeah,
ahead.
and I think it was just one of those things to where every time like you heard a tip or something, and this is the thing where you know, with law enforcement especially, and asking them, like, we no matter if it was credible or not, if I thought it was credible or not, like, hey, we have to follow up on every tip. You had so many tips coming in. I know, like you'd say, oh, I heard this, and I'd tell you, oh, I heard that, and like, should we go out there? And it was just one of those things where, you kind of had to learn to sift through some of the noise, if you will, and find out what might be credible and might not be. Because I'm sure, and we don't know this for sure, but I'm sure there were times they maybe were closing out on him, and they just didn't get him, sooner than they thought they would. But yeah, what? I want to touch on another point you brought up too, because you were talking about some people, pitching a tent, setting up shop. It was the morning of his escape. I went to the Warren County Courthouse and talking to a couple of the media people there, and like I think they were from one of the Buffalo TV stations. Like, oh yeah, I drove down here. Like, oh yeah, you local, you live around here. I said, well, I walk here. I live about 2 blocks away. A little different, but yeah, it from that perspective, it was very interesting, and kind of seeing how they operate as well. People coming in kind of and. Seeing how they cover, a story. The national media covers a national story, and sending people out here and staying in the hotels here and things like that. But it was something. It was. We're certainly proud of the work we do here and bring you the local news. But I think it kind of jolted everyone as well to kind of see it. When you turn on NBC or ABC, like nightly news, like World News Tonight, and they're let's go to Warren County, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay, as you said, maybe not for the reasons you want, but it was certainly an epicenter here during the time he was on the loose.
Yeah. Well, and I'll never forget the day he was actually caught. You were out of town.
I was so mad, but we'll get to that in a minute.
you were out of town, and so I had gone out and we had just wrapped up the daily press conference. They held that every day at 4. And I mean, unbeknownst to us at the time, I mean, they're literally basically apprehending him as we're starting the press conference. But so, I did the press conference, and then I had filmed some things with some of the business owners in Youngsville, planning to do how has this impacted the community, and what are you expecting in the coming days, etc. And got home and was starting to put that video package together, and all of a sudden I start getting all these texts and Facebook messages like, hey, so and so says he's caught. And I'm like, okay. and not only had I wasn't doing that, but I got home and my wife was like, hey, I got to run out to the store for a few things. So I'm sitting at home with our 3 kids going, not now. and actually drove out and met her, and we switched vehicles so that she could bring the kids home, and I could go out and cover the official announcement that he had indeed been captured. And but again, that's with us especially, this is our staff, right? And you were out of town, and it's not like the world stops,
right?
Where it's a little different if you're one of those national guys, or somebody that's being sent here from Buffalo or Erie, and you're staying in a hotel. That's what you're doing, and that's the whole point is that you could be here and go at the drop of a hat, and so it is a little different for us. And again, and I think it would be remiss if we didn't, thank everybody that came to us for their daily coverage. And we certainly appreciate you, in a big situation like that, you turn to us, and we certainly appreciate that.
It was funny, not just a personal note for a second. Brian touched us out of town. My cousin was getting married up in the Finger Lakes, and I think I even said something before I left. I said, I bet he's going to get caught while on the way. Sure enough, he did. But now it was just, it was just one of those things. As it unfolded, I think you learned a little more each and every day about the process. And I certainly had never covered a manhunt like this before, manhunt of any kind really before. But it was kind of interesting to see the way that kind of law enforcement went about their business, and how the public reacted, and how they were very eager to provide any help or information that they could, and that ultimately led to his apprehension. So again, you don't want this to be a
negative thing, right? There a lot of good things happen.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
throughout 2023.
Yeah.
And should definitely touch on some of those. I think one of the maybe more underrated things that we got a chance to do here is we hosted the PA Wilds Are Working initiative. Had 4 families come in from out of the county, spent a month here, and lived here and worked here, and got a chance to really experience what it is that Warren County has to offer, and certainly hope Warren County could be a part of that again in the future.
Yeah, and I actually had a really firsthand perspective of that in a lot of ways. One of the gentlemen that worked there, him and his wife, actually for the month that they were here, actually stayed in the same building that I live in. So that was neat. Just getting their perspective and their feedback on kind of on Warren and Warren County and what they have to offer. And I think the cool thing about it was you talk to all of them, and you come from different areas. And the folks I were talking to from Georgia, they just loved it here.
Yeah.
They loved the outdoor aspect of it. And you hear that. I know it's kind of cliche for people that live here.
Yeah.
But we really do live in a beautiful part of the country, with so many outdoor and recreational opportunities. Whether you want to like do something active or you just want to like go for a walk or hike.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful area. I think that was one of the things that talking to those folks, they really emphasized was kind of the beauty we have here. And again, what a great program. What a great job to get it here, and I think it was truly a valuable experience.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that maybe we take for granted every year had a little bit of a change this year, and it was interesting to see people's reaction to that. With the 75th annual 4th of July parade had to go east on Pennsylvania Avenue instead of heading west, and it was. I thought it went well. I mean, you could see there was maybe some hiccups in just getting people where they were supposed to be as far as moving along and things like that. There were a couple of gaps that you don't usually see, but again, part of that's just you're going a different way and got to stage things at different times. But I think the fact that the committee there was able to adapt and really put on another high quality parade, one of the biggest in the state. And it certainly didn't seem like people were boycotting or staying away by any means. At least, certainly not where we were. Right in front of the draft house there.
Yeah.
Was just a ton of people, as there typically are. I mean, we usually sit right down there, right in front of Park Avenue Motor Car, and hang out with Ron and the guys in the hood, as they call it. And there's always a lot of people right there. But if you go just right up to the top of the street, I mean, it's just packed, and it certainly seemed like that was the same this year.
Yeah, it certainly didn't affect attendance. That's for sure. From my perspective, I thought it was kind of. I mean, I know people are used to doing things a certain way, but I thought it was kind of fresh. I know it wasn't the original plan, but to do it a little different. It provided a different perspective, and I think it went off without a hitch. I think things went really well. Attendance was certainly just as good as it usually is, if not even greater than it is. I don't know what the official totals were, but again, it's a parade that's so well attended every year, and. Want to shout out Bill Thompson, but so many folks going to
well, and
making it happen,
and on top of that, it being the first parade without Wally Post, and I know that was a big deal, that they wanted to make sure that this was a parade that Wally would have been proud of, and I certainly think they accomplished that, regardless of route changes or what have you. I mean, and the rain held off, which was the best part, because it really didn't for most of the weekend leading up to that. I remember going down to Betts Park. Was going to cover some of the events going on down there, and did a live video from under one of the vendor tents, because it was just a monsoon at that point in time.
Yeah, and again, I want to do one more personal note here, but Wally. Post, who you mentioned, who we lost, but it's just he really kind of embodied, like when you thought of the 4th of July, I think so many people thought of him. And I first met Wally years and years ago playing poker, actually, believe it or not, and got to know him, and just what a wonderful man, and what he kind of embodied. The 4th of July is special everywhere in this country, but I just think it's so special, in this community. And one of the reasons it was because of Wally and everything he brought to it, and the passion and the enthusiasm that he brought to it. So, I think they did Wally proud, this year, the 75th installment. And again, there were some different things, but all in all, I think it was another great year, banner year for the 4th of July.
And what I'm really looking forward to, this year and in the years to come is as the parade heads back west and they get right up to that intersection right up there. I'd love to see some unique ideas for how to incorporate the roundabout into the parade. Right now, I know they've talked about, potentially planting some trees or something in there. Right now, why not bring a portable platform in? And I was actually over talking about this with Jim Decker and John Papalea, Dave Papalea at A&B Heating yesterday, as they celebrated 70 years. Yeah. Congratulations to them. But about just the different things you could do if you leveled that off, you could have some of the performers come up and be, in the middle of the roundabout and performing. You could, have split around each side, or maybe that's a way for the committee to raise some money, is do VIP seating in the middle there or something along those lines. So a lot of different ways that could be done, and a lot of different approaches that could be taken here. So it'll be really interesting to see in the coming years what the committee decides to do and how they incorporate that into the parade.
Yeah, again, not to segue, but you talked about the roundabout, and I know there was a lot of opposition to it this year. It's I think it looks nice.
Yeah.
I think people are getting used to it. I think, I understand, you get some opposition to it, and I get that. But I think my thought process behind it was, okay, like now that that's behind us, even the people that were opposed to it, like, you get used to it and adapt. Mm-hmm. I think for the most part, people have. It was certainly talk about hot button issues. It was certainly a hot button issue. And but again, I think people are getting used to it, and I think it's went off. A few kinks here and there, but relatively without a hitch.
Yeah, and I've heard some people kind of talk about some of the things that they've seen, and I've certainly seen some interesting approaches by drivers. But I think
some people kind of aren't used to kind of getting used to
it. But I don't think it's been anywhere near the unmitigated disaster that a lot of people were predicting that it was going to be. Certainly we're not seeing traffic stopping accidents every half hour or anything along those lines, and nobody's gone through the middle of it yet. So that's
a good thing.
But that was one thing in that conversation I had with those guys yesterday that they were talking about. Is how when we have events, and they were talking about the Christmas parade, and how they had to kind of block off the road, and unfortunately, because of the timing of it, there were apparently a number of semi trucks that were heading south, and basically were kind of just at a standstill because they didn't want. Obviously, you can't go through a roundabout when parade's coming the other way, and you've got spectators just standing there. So, that may be one of those things that that they get together and talk about before we have the 4th of July parade this year, and how are we going to set those detours and make sure that in the middle of the parade there's not a semi coming one way or the other and trying to get through there. But again, those are all logistics, and those are all things that. Sometimes you think about it ahead of time, and sometimes you don't. And when you run into those problems, you say, okay, we had this happen. Yeah. How do we correct it going forward? And, as long as you're able to do that and make those corrections, I think everything works.
Yeah, I think it has. I think, again, people are pretty adaptable. They're, even the people that were opposed to it, I think, and certainly there are going to be some logistical things coming up, to your point, but I think all in all, it's been pretty smooth, and knock on wood, it'll continue to be that way.
And so talking about big events, obviously, Warren County Fair rapidly approaching. 100 years for them.
Yeah.
They're in the 90s now, and it's certainly another great fair edition. Even though I got a little wet one of those days, but again, video is available of that if you missed it. I just thought it was going to last longer before somebody hit the target.
A couple of people did that. And then, of course, I had to get my fun in too.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I think there was a lot of pent-up aggression taken out.
There were real times I really picked up like on baseball or softball, really just kind of chucked it. Yeah, good. But no, it's all for a good cause.
And glad to help out.
Absolutely.
And help out a girls volleyball team that went on to win a district championship. So I guess it works. I could say I was a small part of that.
Yes, absolutely. And again, like you mentioned in some of our top story, some of our top sports stories the Warren Lady Dragon volleyball team certainly provided with a lot of excitement and what a group and they were. I think Warren's had a good volleyball program for so long. Of course, a lot of people remember the 2018 team, which went to the state championship, and this team was pretty darn good as well. The second district title in program history, and first since then.
Yep.
And it's funny that I'm getting off on a few tangents here, but they're quick.
Yeah.
But running into a couple of those girls that were on that 2018 team, at events and stuff, and then coming back, you realize like they're graduating from college, right? Like that senior class. That's bonkers to me.
Right.
And I can't to that point, kind of how we opened the show about how quick time goes. Yeah. It seems like just yesterday, watching that and covering that team, and now they're graduating school and off, into the world and doing great things.
Yeah, and again, talking about it had a lot of athletic success throughout the county, this year, and trying to just sit here and off the top of my head rack my brain about it. I mean, playoff appearances for a lot of the county teams, and again, a lot of them, like you mentioned, the Warren volleyball program has been a regular playoff participant for a number of years. Eisenhower football again made it back to the district semis, and we're, an eyelash away from heading back to it.
Just heartbreak. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What a game that was.
Yeah, I know you were there. My good. Yeah, I know. What was funny about that, and I'm going to tell a little of my stories here, but Brian and Cody Elms were broadcasting that game for us, and I was covering the Lakeview Mercer game. Lakeview had won that game. Of course, they were going to play the winner of that game, and my game got done earlier. So I'm standing there on the field, surrounded by a couple of the Lakeview players, and assistant coaches, and we're watching the end of that game. It was kind of cool, but yeah, you touch on Eisenhower football, and another great year for them. Sheffield volleyball, a great year for them as well, and I think we kind of maybe saw that one coming. Certainly, they had a lot of talent coming back, and again, a team that was within an eyelash of going a lot farther too. But they had a great season.
Well, you wonder that last game of the regular season that they dropped, and maybe it impacted their seeding. And if they get a different matchup, don't have to go to county and get somebody else. How much would they have been able to go farther? But
another team I want to shout out was. What a job Coach Eddie DeRun has done with young baseball.
Yes. Fantastic.
I think you're looking ahead, things to be excited about in local sports in 2024. They'll certainly be a District 10 title contender.
Absolutely.
And it's just one thing I noticed with it is how, and we have so many coaches in this county that do such a great job at the high school level, but he is so involved, and it's year round. Yeah. Are we in the gym? Are we in the cages? Are we doing what we need to do? To get, and that's where it takes to get a kind of a winning culture and a winning program. They've done that. So they'll be one to watch. I think a season that's in progress. Just wrote about it again last night. I think we got a couple of really talented basketball teams
absolutely.
As well. The Warren boys, it's not even Christmas yet. I get that, but already one of the few remaining undefeated teams in District 10 that already have some big wins this year, including over Cathedral Prep. So they'll certainly be one to watch too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got my first glimpse at a uber talented freshman up at Eisenhower and Austin Hanson last night, and phenomenal game for him. But and he even touched on it in the interview. Just a total team win. And when that team is firing on all cylinders like they were last night, just 81 points, and it seemed like at ease,
Yeah.
really, a lot of times. And then defensively, until the fourth quarter, shut down one of the top scorers in all of District 10.
Yeah, Isaiah Cologne from
Yeah.
Titusville, certainly. Yeah, I think that's one of the exciting things about the Eisenhower boys and the Warren boys. They play an exciting brand of basketball.
Yeah.
They really like the.
Yeah.
They can score. They have a lot. There's a lot of skill on both those teams. They like to, kind of push tempo, and it's a fun brand of basketball to watch. Of course, the Warren girls as well, certainly a perennial contender.
Watch out for those Eisenhower girls.
Yeah,
too.
Eisenhower
They're
girls
gonna
too.
be on the rise.
And again, they're young. The crazy thing about that is how young they are.
Coach DJ Steinberg told us in a text a couple of weeks ago, they don't have a single upperclassman. They're all freshmen and sophomores on that team.
That's absolutely great. And DJ's done a good job. Of course, his daughter Clara, one of the top players on the team, but they're really a talented young group there, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year as well. So a lot of exciting stuff going on in the world of high school sports. I think sometimes we kind of, I don't think we take it for granted, but again, they certainly have brought the community a whole lot of excitement. There's going to be a lot more to come here in the coming year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we take a quick break, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here, but what was I'll ask this two different ways. What was your favorite thing to cover in 2023? And then what do you think was the most important thing that you covered in 2023?
Oh boy, favorite and most important. I really shouldn't, given the gravity of the situation. We did touch on it quite a bit, but I think the Michael Burham story was my favorite. Not in the sense that it was obviously something not good that happened. Given what we know about him and why he was on the run and things of that nature. But I think just in terms of knowing how important it was of a story to cover for the community, really made it a favorite for me. Just because people were coming, so many people were coming to us to kind of keep updated on what was a constantly evolving story. So I think maybe a favorite, not in the traditional sense as it was like the most fun or whatever, but I think knowing how important it was and being able for us to cover that the way we did, really made that a favorite, if you will. Not official for me. Most important story. I think we had several. I think we touched on a few of them. I think just for the future, I know you covered this much more than I did. What's going on with the schools. I think that's so important. I do want to touch on one more thing, and something that's not official yet, but you have some community leaders, and I'll go with this for most important, because I think it is important. The Warren Works initiative. You have the chamber involved with that. You have some other key players involved in that, and what really that entails, and it's still kind of in its infancy, just kind of trying to get it off the ground. But I think what that involves makes it incredibly important. It's just bringing everyone to the table, the same table, and we talked about communication and people being on the same page in the community. And that's really what it's about. And I talked to a number of people that are involved with it. Jim Decker. He said one of the biggest things is if you have a collaborative effort, it kind of does make it easier to try and get funding for some of these projects and their project. They're in a specific area of the county, but they're really stuff that'll benefit everyone in the county. And I think that's really what they're trying to do is like we have all these great people in the community, leaders and organizations and such, and we're all doing great things. How do we best utilize everyone to make sure that we get the most out of this? I think that's really kind of one of the main directions of the Warren Works initiative. That's something I hope it can get off the ground in 2024 and really start to thrive. And I think it could potentially have a huge impact on this community.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I heard so often throughout this past year specifically, was people saying something to the effect of, look at what they're doing in Kane, look at what they're doing in Corey, and why can't we do that here? And I think, that was one of the things that Jim touched on during the Chamber's annual banquet and award ceremony, which we were absolutely blessed on a tangent to to be one of the recipients of the Excellence in Business Award, and just absolutely humbling to 3 years into doing this. To be thought of in that vein, and certainly appreciate all of that. But one of the things that he talked about was, this has got to be a collaborative effort, and it can't be, the city doing its own thing over here,
Right.
and Youngsville Borough doing its own thing over here, and Sheffield doing this over here, and then the county doing something totally completely different in the courthouse. All of these places, for a lot of these initiatives, have to start working together, and it goes back again to communicating with each other. They've got, the arbitrary lines that divide the county into all its municipalities really need to go away with this initiative, and that thing needs to come together if it's going to work properly. And if it works properly, absolutely has the potential to start doing and getting us in the direction that we want to go in, as far as growth and development.
Absolutely. And again, shout out to everyone that's kind of been involved with that process and kind of had the foresight that you think of something like this. And I think it could do some great things. I'm interested. I'm excited to see, how it all shakes out and what we can accomplish if they get it going the way they want it to.
All right, with that, we're going to step away for 15 seconds. We'll be right back with a brief look ahead to what's to come in 2024. This is Coffee and a Conversation presented by White Cane Coffee.
The only thing worse than being stuck at home is being stuck at home without coffee. We can't let that happen. Browse our selection and order online. From sweet to tangy, hot or iced, we have something for you. White King Coffee, because every cup makes a difference. Cheers.
Now, welcome back to the cafe as White Cane Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg, Andy Close with you on your daily local. So we spent almost an hour, but went a lot to talk about. Time flies, right? Spent almost an hour talking about the year that was in 2023. I want to give a brief look into what's coming up in 2024. We put out a social media post today. We want to hear from you. First and foremost, we want to know, what do you think? What are we covering well? What are we covering maybe not so well? What do you want to see more of, less of? What are some things that we can do to help keep the community better informed? By all means, please respond in the comments to that post. Send us a Facebook message. Send us an email, news@yourdailylocal.com. We want to hear your feedback. This only works if it works for all of you. And we want to know what you want to see. We want to know what you're interested in, what you want to know more about. So by all means, let us know. Send us an email, send us a Facebook message, send us a Twitter DM. Well, I guess it's an X DM, whatever. But by all means, reach out and let us know what it is you want to know more about. And again, we will make every effort to find those answers that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's ultimately what we're here for, is to cover what you guys want to see and what's important. So certainly feedback is welcome. It's appreciated as always, and we appreciate you being part of this with us. And again, to your point, kind of looking ahead to 2024, a lot of things on the docket.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the year, we kind of have a general idea. We know we're going to be covering municipal government, we know county government, school board, things of those nature. We know there's some big events that happen every year. Winterfest is right around the corner. Good Lord.
Kind of hard to believe with no snow on the ground right now, but yeah.
So I mean, right out of the gate, we're gonna have Winterfest coming up in February. Obviously we'll have the 4th of July celebration, the Warren County Fair. I know the Trail Fest at Jake's Rocks. I know I'm missing some.
Oh yeah. We just have
just off the top of my head, obviously we cover the downtown Christmas parade and walk every year. Got a chance to go down to Tiddy Ute for their hometown holiday. That was a good time, and that is one thing we are going to promise you folks down in Tiddy Ute. We will be down in your neck of the woods more in the coming year and years than we have been previously. That is one of the things we're going to focus on this year, is to make sure that we get down that way, because there's a ton of stuff going on. Down in Tiddy Ute, and that's another community that's kind of looking for some direction and still has a chance to be a big part of the growth and development of Warren County going forward.
Yeah, 'cause I think to you it's one of the most picturesque places. You go across the bridge there. It's just I think it's just
Yeah.
again I love going down. It's just it's like a postcard.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of things certainly going on there, and a really incredible place, and excited to get down there more.
Yeah. And it was interesting. One of the things, I did that walk down Main Street and got a ton of really great feedback from that. And that may be something we look at doing some more of throughout the county in the coming year, as well as just heading out to some of these little communities and taking a walk down Main Street and just letting everybody know who and what is there. And, obviously we're going to have a bunch of theater arts as well coming up, and that's I'm actually going to be on Monday, speaking of theater type arts. I'm going to head up to Warren Area High School. Some of the elementary school kids are going to be doing some caroling through the halls.
I understand your daughter is
Yeah,
going to be part of that as
she's
well.
gonna be part of that. And so we'll go up there and bring you some coverage of that. Looking forward to that one on Monday, and you're going to go out and shop with a cop.
I
this
am.
coming
I am
week,
looking
and,
forward to it.
always some great things. It needs that. That's even before the end of the year, and we'll have more of that kind of stuff. Coming up in 2024. Just off the top of your head, knowing what we're going to have available, which we never know. Sometimes when people escape or are on the run, or that's one of the best parts of the job, is that it's not. You don't know from day to day what you're going to run into, but knowing what's on the docket for 2024, what are you looking forward to covering most?
No, well, I think, like to your point, there's just so much. I'm one of the things that you talked about that I'm looking forward to. I love going out to Winterfest every year. And I think they just there's so many fun things going on there, and it's. You have vendors. You just have so many activities for kids, activities for adults. It's something I don't just enjoy like going to cover. It's something I enjoy going to and participating in too.
Yeah.
So I think.
So you're going to polar plunge this year? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
I'm pretty sure that's what I just heard. That you're going to polar plunge this.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But no, I think just it's a lot of fun, and these people from all over come to it, and you just have so many interests. You have the bike ride, and Andy Georgiakis kind of heads that. He does such a great job with that. You have the sled races were new last year, and just
the kayak race.
Yes,
and I've been told they're coming back. So
and just so many fun things there that I enjoy watching, and I enjoy covering, and enjoy in some cases participating too. It's just so I know that's kind of a cheat because it's like one of the first big events of the year, but it's the first thing that came to mind for me among many, and it's such a fun event. It'll be one of many fun things to cover over the course of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to Fair Week. Obviously, is always a good time, and it's one of those things, especially because my kids get into it, right? It gets a little harder though as they're getting a little older and they want to just ride more of the rides. So it gets, and it seems like inevitably whatever day we decide to go, it rains
without fail.
But certainly one of the things we're looking forward to there, we're pondering about potentially having a booth out there this year so that we can spend some more time and have you folks come and say hello and spend some time with us and get your questions answered.
And get a chance to dunk Brian, maybe.
We will see. But I think my favorite event every year is the 4th of July celebration. And I think it's just, with everything going on, especially now that it's a multi-day event, with everything going on down at Betts and the parade and the fireworks. And again, it's one of those things that I get to enjoy with my kids. When we went down for the Christmas parade, and you may have heard her in the background, but my McKenna, my middle, is starting to really take an interest in wanting to commentate. And so I think we're gonna look into live streaming the 4th of July parade for you this year. I know but it's more for the folks that had to leave town or not be able to be in town, for whatever reason. But certainly a service we want to look into, and maybe we'll get a guest appearance from her on in the commentary.
Yes,
we're able to pull
absolutely.
that off. But yeah, it's just so much goes into it, and it's so much fun. And I mean, it's one of those things, I guess, when I was a kid, I always looked forward to, and now as an adult, it's it's work, but it's a good time.
Too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, and that's like any of the sporting events that we go and we live stream. Like, yeah, it's work, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we've been able to incorporate some of the Warren County students who are looking into getting into this field. Actually had Tracy Jacobzak make her debut last night, and thought that went very well. And look forward to having Chris Bunk back on the broadcast here coming up. Had a big game from him last night as well. And I've got some questions for Chris, though. There's a banner hanging in the Eisenhower gym right now that I need answers. And if you've been up there and you see it, you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the Eisenhower boys basketball Facebook page, you've seen it. You know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, stay tuned, because we're going to talk about it. But again, we also want to hear from you. Please comment on the Facebook post that we put out earlier today. Send us a Facebook message, send us a Twitter DM, send us an email, news@yourdailylocal.com. Let us know what you want us to cover. What do you think is important? I mean, we can look at things and say, hey, this is a big deal, but we're two people, and there are things that matter to others, and we need to know what those are so that we can continue to bring you the news you need when you need it. And programming note, this is going to be our last new edition of Coffee and a Conversation for this year. We're going to take the next couple of weeks off for the holidays, and we'll be right back at it the first week after New Year's Day. So it's the 7th, 6th or 7th, I don't know. So like one of those days. But that first Saturday after the first of the year, we'll be right back at it with a brand new episode of Coffee and a Conversation. And that's been one of my favorite things. We launched the Morning Cup of News and Coffee and a Conversation in April, and got a ton of great feedback from that. I can't go anywhere now without somebody saying, hey, I saw you having a conversation with somebody. And certainly looking forward to continuing these programs throughout the upcoming year as well. And again, if you know somebody that we should be talking to, let us know. We'll make every effort to make that happen. So with that, I think, Andy, we're going to get out of here. And anything you want to say to the folks before the end of the year?
Nope, just have a terrific holiday, everyone. Enjoy your time with loved ones, friends and family. It's a great time of year, and enjoy it, be safe, have fun, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. With that, for Andy Close, this is Brian Hagberg saying thank you so much for watching. We'll see you after the first of the year. And remember, if you change one life, you change the world. Cheers.
You know what would make that better? A cup of White Cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White Cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.